Hey, beautiful humans. Welcome to a space where we get real. It's Zach here, coming at you with some unfiltered truth today. If you're new to the sanctuary of mental health real talk, I break down complex psychological stuff in a way that's actually digestible, no clinical jargon that makes your eyes glaze over. If that sounds like something your soul needs right now, smash that subscribe button and join our community of seekers and healers. Today we're diving headfirst into the murky waters of depression. Not that I'm sad because my favorite show ended kind, but that bone-deep, fog-like heaviness that clings to your spirit and refuses to budge. We're exploring how depression isn't just sadness on steroids. It's an emotional hijacker that rewires your entire emotional operating system. You probably heard someone say, or maybe you said it yourself, but my life is good, I shouldn't feel this way. Or the soul-crushing classic, have you tried just being more positive? Rolls eyes dramatically. That's exactly what we're dissecting today. That persistent emotional quicksand that doesn't care about your Pinterest inspiration board or how many times someone tells you to just look on the bright side. Depression doesn't play by those rules, and it's time we understand why. Let's shatter the biggest misconception right off the bat. Depression isn't just sadness cranked up to 11. It's an entirely different beast altogether. It's not having a crappy day or feeling blue because your crush didn't text back. Depression is like being forced to wear a lead-line hazmat suit in the scorching desert with no way to unzip it. Every movement becomes a Herculean task. Even the things that once lit up your soul, like fireworks, barely register as a spark anymore. Let me break this down. Imagine a persistent emptiness hollowing you out from the inside, a void that makes absolutely zero logical sense when your external life looks Instagram perfect. It's watching your friends laugh at a joke and wondering why you feel nothing. It's staring at a breathtaking sunset and feeling utterly disconnected from its beauty. Then there's a psychological tongue twister called anhedonia. It's basically your brain's pleasure center going offline. That video game that used to keep you up until 3 a.m., now it feels like mindless button pushing. That chocolate cake you'd normally demolish in seconds might as well be cardboard. Your all-time favorite song? Just irritating noise penetrating your consciousness. Here's the plot twist most people completely miss. Depression sometimes doesn't even look like sadness at all. Instead, it erupts as rage, irritability, or a hair-trigger temper, especially in teenage boys and men who've been socially conditioned to transform vulnerability into anger. So that friend who's suddenly snapping at everyone like a crocodile with a toothache, they might not be a jerk. They might be drowning in depression and have no vocabulary to express it. Depression doesn't just bring rain clouds. It unleashes a full-blown Category 5 emotional hurricane that devastates your internal landscape. The psychological tempest doesn't just blow through. It sets up camp and refuses to leave. Let me walk you through the destructive forces swirling in this perfect storm. First comes a soul-crushing weight of feeling like human baggage. Depression whispers poisonous thoughts like, your friends secretly dread seeing your name on their phone, or everyone's just tolerating you out of pity, or the particularly venomous, the world would function perfectly fine. Maybe even better, without you in it. Listen to me carefully. These aren't revelations or hidden truths. They're toxic hallucinations your brain manufactures when its chemical balance goes haywire. Depression is a master ventriloquist, making its distorted voice sound like your own. Then there's a suffocating quicksand of hopelessness, that bone-deep conviction that nothing will ever improve. The absolute certainty that tomorrow's emotional forecast shows eternal gray skies stretching infinitely before you. The paralysis of believing that struggling is pointless because the finish line keeps moving further away with every step. This particular symptom is especially treacherous because it annihilates your motivation to reach for lifelines. Why would anyone grab a rescue rope if they're convinced it's actually a mirage? But here's the unvarnished truth. Depression is pathological liar. It's like viewing your entire existence through a horrifically distorted funhouse mirror that makes everything appear monstrous and unchangeable. Depression transforms your inner monologue into a relentless, merciless critic that will make Simon Cowell look like a supportive kindergarten teacher. Every single imperfection becomes catastrophic evidence of your fundamental unworthiness. That awkward thing you said at a party 7 years ago? Depression keeps that footage on constant replay, convincing you it defines your entire social existence. That small mistake at work? Depression magnifies it into career-ending proportions. The universal truth is that everyone stumbles, everyone has rough edges, but depression strips away your ability to see yourself with compassionate, balanced eyes. Instead, it forces you to view yourself through a microscope that only magnifies flaws while making strengths invisible. Now, let's venture into the emotional underworld of depression. Those insidious symptoms that rarely make it into mainstream conversations, but are just as debilitating as the ones everyone knows about. These are the phantom pains of depression that people struggle to articulate but suffer from intensely. Perhaps the most disorienting symptom is emotional flatline. Not sadness, but profound, haunting nothingness. Imagine your emotional receptors completely shutting down, leaving you in a state of eerie neutrality that's somehow more terrifying than pain itself. Picture witnessing your child's graduation or your best friend's wedding and feeling absolutely nothing, just a hollow emptiness where celebration should be. Or imagine watching a movie that once made you laugh until you cried, and now you're just staring at moving images on a screen, intellectually recognizing that something is supposed to be funny, but feeling no connection to that humor. It's like your soul has been placed behind soundproof glass, able to observe life, but incapable of experiencing it. This disconnect doesn't just feel strange. It feels profoundly wrong, like you become an alien in your own body. Depression sabotages your cognitive functioning in ways that seem completely unrelated to emotion. Your decision-making capacity collapses under the weight of neural fatigue. Standing in front of your closet becomes a paralyzingly complex mathematical equation with too many variables. Choosing between pasta or rice for dinner feels like being asked to solve quantum physics while underwater. You might find yourself staring vacantly into your refrigerator for 15 minutes, not because you're contemplating culinary creativity, but because your brain has essentially short-circuited trying to perform what should be a simple calculation. One of the most destabilizing aspects of depression is identity dissolution, the terrifying sensation that your very self is evaporating. You catch your reflection and momentarily don't recognize the person staring back. You wonder how this stranger has infiltrated your mirror. The passionate interests that once formed the constellation of your identity now appear as distant, meaningless pinpricks of light. Your personality feels like a costume you've forgotten how to wear convincingly. Your sense of self fragments like a reflection in a shattered mirror. You can still make out the general shape, but the coherent whole has disintegrated. Depression rarely travels alone. It usually brings its sinister companion, anxiety, along for the ride. Suddenly, you're not just feeling nothing, you're simultaneously feeling everything. Your nervous system goes into hyperdrive, constantly scanning for threats like an overzealous security system. Everyday situations trigger disproportionate panic. Your heart races while grocery shopping. Your palms sweat during routine conversations. A generalized sense of impending doom follows you like a persistent shadow with no discernible source. And here's the psychological plot twist. These symptoms aren't static. They fluctuate wildly, creating better days that cruelly trick you into thinking you've recovered, only to plunge you back into the abyss when you least expect it. These fluctuations aren't evidence that you're faking it or cured. They're simply part of depression's chaotic nature. Depression doesn't confine its destruction to your internal landscape. It detonates powerful explosives under the bridges connecting you to others. The social fallout is devastating and often misunderstood by everyone involved. You might find yourself systematically severing connections with friends and family who genuinely love you, not because you've stopped caring about them. Quite the opposite. It's because depression has drained your social batteries so completely that even a 10-minute phone call feels like running an emotional marathon with broken legs. Or perhaps you're haunted by the conviction that your darkness is contagious, that your presence is a rain cloud threatening everyone else's sunny day. Depression rewires your social perception circuits, cranking your sensitivity to rejection up to excruciating levels. A friend's distracted glance at their phone while you're speaking transforms into irrefutable evidence that you're boring and unworthy of attention. Your partner's neutral morning face becomes proof they're secretly regretting their relationship with you. A colleague's constructive feedback on your project feels like a public declaration of your incompetence. Your emotional skin becomes tissue paper thin, with every casual interaction capable of inflicting deep wounds. This hypersensitivity creates two distinct relationship patterns. Some people become emotional black holes, constantly seeking reassurance that never quite fills the void, while others build impenetrable fortresses around themselves, preemptively rejecting others before others can reject them. Neither strategy is a character flaw. They're simply different psychological defense mechanisms against the same unbearable pain. The cruel irony is that when you're drowning in depression, even well-intentioned loved ones often throw cement life preservers instead of flotation devices. They bombard you with toxic positivity grenades like, "But look how blessed you are," or "Others have it so much worse," or the particularly damaging, "Happiness is a choice." These comments don't emerge from malice. They spring from fundamental misunderstanding about depression's nature, but their impact is devastating nonetheless. Each misguided platitude reinforces the crushing conviction that no one truly understands your experience, that you exist in a parallel universe where normal human connection is impossible. This deepens your isolation, pushing you further into depression's shadowlands, creating a vicious feedback loop of withdrawal that becomes increasingly difficult to break. So, when does this emotional typhoon cross the critical threshold from going through a rough patch into, "I need professional intervention"? When should those internal alarm bells start ringing at maximum volume? It's time to reach for the emergency brake when that persistent darkness becomes your constant companion. When these feelings hijack most of your waking hours nearly every single day for 2 weeks or longer. When getting out of bed requires the same energy as climbing Mount Everest. When showering feels like an Olympic event. When your performance at work or school is crumbling like ancient ruins. When previously simple tasks, responding to texts, opening mail, preparing meals, pile up like insurmountable mountains. Pay particular attention if you notice yourself increasingly reaching for the bottle, the pill, the joint, or whatever substance temporarily numbs the pain. This isn't casual self-care. It's your desperate brain attempting emergency DIY psychopharmacology, and it's about as effective as trying to fix a broken leg with duct tape and wishful thinking. I need to be crystal clear about this next point. If your thoughts have turned toward death or suicide, even if they're just fleeting shadows passing through your mind, that a 5-alarm emergency requiring immediate action. These aren't character flaws or signs of weakness. They're serious symptoms of medical condition that demands immediate attention, just like chest pain or uncontrolled bleeding. Depression is treatable. I know that from where you're standing right now, that might sound like I'm speaking a foreign language, but I need you to borrow my conviction until you can rebuild your own. Don't face this monster alone. Reach out to your doctor, who can rule out physical causes, and discuss treatment options. Connect with therapists who specialize in depression. Finding the right match is like finding the right key for a stubborn lock. If those steps feel too overwhelming, start by confiding in someone you trust. If you're in crisis right now, if you're considering harm, please call or text 988 immediately to reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. They're available 24/7, and they genuinely understand what you're going through. International viewers, I've included crisis resources for your countries in the description below. I need you to hear this. Asking for help doesn't reveal weakness. It demonstrates extraordinary courage. It takes tremendous strength to acknowledge your struggle and reach toward healing when every fiber of your being wants to isolate and hide. Many of us walking this earth, including me, have stood exactly where you're standing now, staring into that same abyss. The hand reaching for help is the strongest hand of all, and it's the first movement toward reclaiming your life from depression's stranglehold. Depression's most insidious lie, its master deception, is convincing you that you're marooned on an island of suffering that no one else can reach or comprehend. It whispers that your darkness is unique, that no human connection can possibly penetrate it, that this emotional wasteland is your permanent address. But I'm standing here as living proof that depression, though a convincing liar, is not a truth teller. You are surrounded by fellow travelers who understand this journey intimately. The darkness that feels eternal is actually temporary. Like all weather patterns, no matter how severe, this storm will eventually pass. I know that it's impossible to believe from where you stand right now, but sometimes we need to borrow hope from others until we can regenerate our own. If your soul recognizes itself in anything I've described today, please understand this. There is no shame in this recognition. Mental health challenges don't check your bank account, your achievements, your social status, or your zip code before they strike. They affect brilliant CEOs and struggling students, famous celebrities and everyday people, the elderly and the young. Depression is an equal opportunity invader that can infiltrate any life. If this conversation provided even a tiny flashlight beam in your darkness, please hit that like button and join our community by subscribing to Adzakaprat. This channel exists to break the silence around mental health and create a sanctuary where healing conversations can flourish. Share your journey in the comments or suggest topics you're struggling with that need illumination. Until our paths cross again, remember to treat yourself with the same compassion you'd offer a beloved friend. You're surviving something incredibly difficult and doing it with more strength than you realize.